Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Hey everybody, it's Joe, and it's a very cold day here out at Giga-Texas on Wednesday, the 22nd of January. And I was able to come out a little bit later just to let the temperatures warm up. It looks like it's a beautiful day, and it is. It's just very cold. But I did get a full flight in, and we get a chance to see a few interesting things. One of which is over at the Cybertunnel. Got a chance to see many Cybertrucks exiting through that tunnel. That is now the primary and the operational location for the Cybertrucks to exit the factory and then work their way over to the west outbound lot. Speaking of the west outbound lot, I was able to take a look at all of the vehicles that are there. They are still making some of the original generation Model Ys. So I don't see any other refreshes right now. I do see a bunch of Cybertrucks, which is good news in addition to what we saw coming out of the Cybertunnel, because that tells me that the temporary pause for construction or production of the Cybertrucks seems to be at an end. At least they are making some, which is an improvement from what we saw very recently. A couple other things that I'll just talk about here that you'll see in the video is further south of that Cybertunnel is where they're putting in a kind of a water or drainage intercept system. They're installing a large caisson, which looks like a kind of a concrete tank that's going down into the ground. And across the highway, they're installing another one. And they are both in the same general location by that south bridge. Now this is very similar to what we have seen in the past, and that was over where the south extension was extended and constructed, and also where the boring tunnel went through. Now I do have a few of my Patreons and also some of my longtime viewers on YouTube that have had a construction background, and they think that this may be indicating where we might see some more tunneling at some point. I don't know if that's the case. It's an interesting kind of conjecture right now. It's definitely something to look forward to. Along those lines, over at the base of the flagpoles, where we see some of the vehicles being kind of displayed, we also see a fence that has been erected around that area. This is in a location where, if these are related to boring tunnels, and we are going to be seeing a boring tunnel in this general location, we may actually see another one of these caissons being installed. So it's something that I'll be keeping an eye on. And I just want to say thank you very much to David Salisbury and also Dusty Doolin for their ideas on what we are seeing. The last thing I'll just leave you with for the intro is coming up 1 week from now on the 29th of January at I think it's 4:30 Central Time, and that's 22:30 UTC. Tesla's going to be having their fourth quarter and annual financial results meeting. I know a lot of people are keeping an eye on that because it will relate to the vehicle production and deliveries that we saw last year, but it'll also show us what's going on with energy storage and some other aspects of Tesla's business and their sales. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Just a reminder, next week on Wednesday, the 29th of January, that is coming up. So without further ado, let's get the drone in the air. Let's fly around on this beautiful but very cold day here at Giga-Texas. As always, thank you very much for watching. So let's go flying.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good morning from an extremely cold day here at Giga-Texas, but otherwise beautiful. We're starting off on the southwest side, See the transformers on the right with a fence around them now. Also, just a little bit of steel items on the bottom of the screen that have been used for interior mezzanines, floors, and other construction related to preparing for additional production later this year. As we pass over the power lines, we'll take a look at the staging yard here with a lot of the materials and workshops that have been stored and then used for production and other construction going on with the factory. We do see a lot of superchargers on the right-hand side of the screen waiting for installation. And of course, in the middle part is all of this production equipment that has been delivered over the last several months, wrapped in kind of this silver foil, some of the blue tarps. Some of them are in the wooden crates as well, and they're all in this kind of marshaled yard with a fence around it. In addition to that, the kind of the upper part of the screen, all of these brown wrapped items are part of a stamping press. Looks like they have been wrapped up for longer term storage, so we will not see those installed for some time, but I'll continue to monitor, and when they start getting installed, we'll be able to figure out where they are going. But there's additional items here, some under the blue tarps and other wrapping that is being stored here waiting for their chance to be installed. Now all of these transformers are still remaining here, have not moved in some time. I think this is related to what we're seeing at the south end of the electrical switchyard, but I'll continue to monitor that, and we will find out together here hopefully soon where those are going to be installed. Now I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude, give you a great overall view here of the west side, that outbound lot, the end of line facility, and many of the vehicles that are being staged there for transport. We'll get some closer views here momentarily. Of course, the west warehouse on wheels. It's a lot of trailers, and these are full with some of the items that are used for production, also sometimes used for temporary storage until they are picked up and taken back to the suppliers. Now, while we're here, bring the drone back down. We'll take a look at this construction site of the Caisson for this intercept system. Looks like they are getting ready to pour some concrete around the forms and the rebar that we see in that cylindrical section of that caisson. It also looks like there's some pipes along the top, and with this view is a great look at all of the rebar that has been added in, and where we will probably see some of the concrete poured very soon. With the workers on top, that gives you a great idea of the scale. Of course, the orange wrapping is because it's so cold and they need to make sure that the concrete will cure properly. You can also see the roadway with the bases for the light posts and this dirt section where that natural gas pipeline was installed. Now, as we approach into the Cybertunnel, some pretty exciting things to see. We're actually going to get a chance to see a lot of Cybertrucks exiting. This Cybertunnel is now operational. This is the primary way for the Cybertrucks to exit the factory, go underneath the highway, and then exit here for processing. And with these great views, not only do we see Cybertrucks coming out, but we can get a nice view of that Cybertunnel and how it looks. Also note the lights for that daytime running light above that opening. And just really how all of this is operational right now. So we'll continue to see this developed, probably get some landscaping around the Cybertunnel itself. Of course, with this view, a nice view of the tunnel inside underneath the overhang. And of course, that light bar still lit up. It's changing positions so you can just get a better idea of what it looks like from this side. And then, of course, up towards that end of line facility and the outbound lot where they are headed. This also tells us Cybertruck production is resumed, which is great to see. We also can tell that this newly paved section has had all of the markings placed in it, and they're going to get ready for light posts. Interestingly enough, on the north end, we see what looks to be handicap parking spaces next to where these 8 covered supercharger stations are located. So all of this is quite new, and we can tell with the production of the vehicles, very busy at the superchargers and all around the end-of-line facility. Now bring the drone up to a higher altitude, get a look across to the outbound lot. We do see Cybertrucks on the left, a lot of mixed Cybertrucks and Model Ys in the top portion of the screen. and we'll see some more on this north part of the lot. I have not seen any of the refreshed Model Ys. These all appear to be the current version. So right now, at least Giga-Texas production of the existing Model Ys is continuing. More Cybertrucks in the bottom right, and some of the Model Ys being stored here on this north end. And as we get closer to the north part of the end-of-line facility, we see a line of Model Ys all in black getting ready for processing, and Cybertrucks also. And they'll enter into this part of the facility, work their way through to the south, and then we'll exit over where the superchargers are located. So that's a pretty quick update on production. Now, as we cross over the highway, the last part I want to take a look at related to production is where this opening is on the left-hand side of the screen and that black ramp. We do see two Model Ys kind of coming back into this area, and I think those are some of the drivers. I have seen a lot of Model Ys exiting here today, just not at that moment in time. Another thing I want to show you is next to the flagpoles and the flags, which are still at half-mast, we can see this fenced section where some of those Cybertrucks and other vehicles are located. And also on the bottom of the screen, we see lights that have been installed to illuminate the flags during the nighttime. This is the area where it's possible we're going to see some additional construction for another of the caissons for the water intercept system that we talked about in the intro. And that'll be an area that I will continue to monitor to see what happens over time. Now we're going to fly to the south next to that temporary platform, also with the stairways on the temporary platform going up to the roof section. We see some rebar and other items are being delivered and hoisted up into that open section. Also, those staircases are used right now for access to the roof, where later on we're going to see some mounts for solar panels being installed. The section on the ground here and that opening on the left is where the Cybertrucks were exiting. Now it's all under construction. We see work around the windows, preparing for the staining of the last remaining of the concrete panels. Work on this wall underneath that opening to get the stain work on. And of course, the windows are covered in plastic because of the stain that they want to try to protect them from. A lot more of the windows have been delivered in the crates onto these trailers. And just a nice view here of the southwest corner of the main site. I wanted to get a closer view and just show you what's going on with this particular caisson, more of the form work and that rebar work for this concrete caisson. They have some looks like scaffolding around the top part of that cylindrical caisson and some more excavation work that is going on. In addition to that, the power poles that have been recently relocated to allow for this construction. And here's looking across that bridge back to the other caisson that is under construction on the other side. So nice view overall of all of this work on this part of the site. Now, as I turn back to the main factory, this is a nice look at the cyber pond, some of the grass that is still green despite the cold weather that we've had, and the iconic fork in the road and where it is located in relation to the Cortex, which is the supercomputer cluster within this part of the factory. I did notice that it looks like one of the large glass panes may have been broken. They have got cordon underneath it for protection, and I'm not sure how that would have been broken. But it is interesting considered that is a gigantic and thick piece of glass. Now, as we come up to the roof, we'll see some of the remaining snow that we had yesterday throughout the region as it's getting ready for melting. Also, I wanted to show you the mounts, the Unirack mounts that are being placed along this part of the solar panels. And this is a closer in view of many of them waiting for installation. That's interesting because we haven't seen a lot of work with these solar panels in quite some time. This may indicate that we're going to see some additional installation of solar panels in the near future. As we cross over the roof towards these large cables on the rack mount system, this is the termination of all those cables that we see installed in the north, and then they enter into this part of the factory to provide the power for the Cortex supercomputer cluster. And we can see how it snakes along the original parapet wall over to the east side, and then it will make a turn to the north and then connect way up to the north over the casting machine structure. And we'll see that here shortly. The chiller plant is operational with 2 of the fan units. The plastic wrapped bottom part of the plant looks like some of the wind has blown it in a little around where that large manifold is, and I'll give you some ground views of that here momentarily. The crews are also preparing for the glass to be installed at the center bottom of the screen along this last part of the factory and the extension. Some more snow along the parapet wall as it's starting to melt with the hopefully increased temperatures the rest of this week. And a nice lower down view of the south end, the cyber pond, where we see preparations for that roadway along this south glass wall and that concrete curb. So I'm going to turn the drone back towards this southeast corner, and we can see there's work on the inside just behind the glass. Crews are doing some additional work near the glass corner, and with some of these man lifts, they'll be doing a final installation of some of the trim pieces, and then of course around the side is where more of the glass has to be installed, and a good view of the chiller plant and that plastic on the ground that we were talking about. I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude and kind of give you a nice view from the south looking to the north of the entire factory and how it all appears today. Here's a nice look at the workshops along the River Road extension, and of course that lined pond with some of the water in it. Part of it is from the chiller plant, part of it is I think from the snow and rain that we had over the last couple of days, at least the freezing rain. And some nice looks here as we fly to the north between the multi-level parking garage and the main building, and some of the roadways and work that's going on underneath the power lines. And this is a nice close-in view of the multi-level parking garage from this perspective, taking advantage of the light from the later part of the day. And we see more of that snow on the roof melting away from the last 24 hours. And a good view here of that sedimentation basin and how it looks just to the south of this large lot that is being used for overflow and also employee vehicle parking. Now, I did want to take a closer look at this package that is kind of wrapped on the south end of the superchargers. I'm not really sure what that is, but I will try to get a closer look when it is not so cold. Nice view across the cyber circle to the north along the power lines over towards the baghouse filtration plant, and also note all the castings and rack mounts along the ground and the berm. As I zoom in, we can tell that some more equipment is being installed, some of it wrapped in plastic on the ground level, and much of the superstructure has had many of the pipes installed, and a nice view of the melt plant and that covering structure on the right-hand side of the screen. Now I'm going to just stay up at this altitude, maneuver over the power lines. Because of the winds, because of the cold, I'm not going to try to risk getting in lower today around the baghouse filtration plant. But from this perspective, we can get a nicer kind of idea of what is going on, work with those tanks and some crews at the bottom with that open door. Now, along the parapet wall, we do see there's cables that I mentioned at the south end. This is where they come up to the north end. There are some connections that have still yet to be made, and this new entry to the roof looks complete with the doorway. So a lot of nice detail work that is going on here at the north end, some of it which is related to the Cortex supercomputer cluster power needs at the south end. I'm going to fly back towards the west over the roof section just so that we can take a look at the repairs that are going on with the section of roof that has had some issues in the past. You can see all of these kind of lined marks across this section of the roof. This is where they have repaired some of the seams and reattached the weatherproof membrane. more of the snow as well on the top, but all of this is to prevent some of that flapping and delamination that we saw in the winds, and also to prevent and stop a lot of the leaks that had been happening in this area. And of course, we can get rid of all of the bricks that are holding it down once all of this work is completed. So we're going to fly over the northwest corner. I'll bring the drone down, and we'll get a good view along the north side of the factory. With the restart of the Cybertruck production, it looks like there are more of the castings being produced and stored here in the material handling and sorting lot, which is great to see. We also see rack mounts for more castings on the right and left-hand side of the screen, and that new tent-like structure on the bottom right of the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and turn up towards the north here, fly over the sorting lot for the castings and Tesla Road. And I want to get a closer look at some of the work underway here near the Megapack and over at the south end of the Switchyard. We can tell here this concrete structure with the grate where the cables kind of go up and over this section through that area to avoid some underground pipes. And then here is what the Megapack site looks like today. And you can see all those transformers. It's still very possible we're going to see the transformers we saw on the far west side brought over here, but installed in that clearing with all of the screw-type piers that are coming into view in the middle part of the screen. So as I fly up over the power lines again, this is a nice bird's eye view of that work, the extent of all of the screw-type piers that have been installed. Almost all of them have been finished, and we see some trench work now, which is possibly for some electrical cabling and conduit. You can possibly see some of that conduit on the left-hand side of the screen being stacked up, waiting for the trench work to be completed so that they can install it along this entire area. But as I brought the drone down lower, can tell what this site looks like now with all the screw-type piers, possibly some welding that is going on at the bottom of the screen next to that black truck. And with the workers, this gives you an idea of the scale of this section. Also, how tall those screw-type piers are extending above the ground in certain areas. And there are different heights based on where they have been installed. We also see, it looks like some work here at the north end with that electrical conduit being uncovered. And then, of course, these three control trailers, the one on the right is the newest of them, and more of the work to assemble and connect the electrical items here at the Switchyard, all related to that third new transformer, which has been nearly completed. And this overall view with the three bays and the three transformers should give you a better idea and context of what this will look like when it is completed. The workers also give you a sense of scale, as these transformers and the items being installed are actually quite large. So I'm going to pull away to the north, and we'll fly just along this area to get an idea of what this section looks like, and more of the work on the V-type circuit breakers on the center right of the screen. And I'll bring the drone up, and we'll pass over the electrical switchyard and then head over to the die shop to see what is going on in that section of the site today. So there's a lot of work that's going along the Tesla Road with that extension and some of the other work near that pond on the left-hand side of the screen coming into view. But the biggest news is all of the work here to remove, widen, and fix the berm all the way across this section, much closer to that old Martin Marietta batch plant. This is what this section looks like today. You can definitely tell a lot of the earthwork that is underway, and also give you a good view of just how much wider this is becoming on this side of the die shop. In addition to that, on the ground, all of the rebar that we see here is related to a pretty heavily reinforced slab that is being constructed just inside the walls of this building on the right-hand side of the screen. And we've seen some views inside of that work that has been underway, and we'll continue to monitor that as best as I can. More of the stormwater pipe waiting for installation. Most likely this is going to happen along that newly widened berm. And as I pan back, a good look at some of the materials on the north side of the die shop being ready for installation, and the plastic wrapped cooling plant. Looks like there is some of that plastic that has been ripped up because of the winter storms that we've had. But otherwise, it's actually pretty well withstood that storm from what I was expecting based on my previous video. As we fly over this section of the site, some of the materials that have been recently brought in as part of the production for the cathode material inside. And in addition to that, as I turn around this this dump truck, get a good view of this entire west side looking to the south. And on the upper right, you can see that berm that continues to be widened, and the roadway that goes through this area as well to allow access to the earthworking equipment and the trucks bringing the dirt away. And we'll stop here. Just a quick look back towards the cathode plant, some of the concrete waiting for recycling, and the materials on the right, which still have not moved in quite some time. More of the steel corrugated pipe and other pipes waiting for installation, just going underneath the drone. As we fly along the east side of the cathode plant, a few things of interest that I would like to point out. One is just take a look at some of the vehicles that are being used here for the crash testing facility, and some of that's aligned along the west side and the roadway. In addition to that, here's a much closer view of the work that is underway for stormwater management pipe along this part of the crash test facility. And some of the progress has been made already, enough so that they filled in some of the trenching. You can see that riser pipe on the left near that control room, and some additional of the pipe that is being installed here on the south end. And I'll bring the drone back and tilt it back up so you can get a good view of the entire side and how this is continuing to develop and transform as that work continues. Nice overall view of the entire complex of structures as well. So that's going to bring us to an end of a flight on this extremely cold but otherwise beautiful day at Giga-Texas. I hope you enjoyed what we were able to talk about in the intro and the video. And as always, thank you for watching. Have a great day.